how many companies can you sort of be looking at one time?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we focus on 10 to 20 companies. That's what we want to do at Swell. We want to focus on the best 10 to 20 companies globally. Now, obviously, if you look at the entire globe, there's thousands of businesses out there. So what we do is we set a very high standard on each of those companies. We set the quality bar very high. And so when you set the quality bar that high, you immediately start to exclude thousands of businesses. And it's only the very best ones that kind of make its way through the process. And, we look at companies with a market cap of over 1.5 billion. That sort of puts our investable universe down to about 5,000 companies. And we do various things. We do some proprietary screens. We look at various factors that we know have worked in the past, and we take those companies and we reduce them down to sort of 50 companies. And then it's from that point we start the really hard work and knock those 50 down to a smaller number. We'd probably do hundreds of hours work before moving a company from that investment process stage into what I call the qualitative and quantitative stage, where we're doing all the traditional things. We're building cash flow models and which have balance sheets and income statements, and we're doing a huge amount of work on the qualitative side. So it's bringing those two elements together. Now, the types of companies that make it way through that process, they're exceptionally high quality businesses, but that's what we want. We want to own the best companies in the world, the ones that can sustain themselves from competition for a very long time.
And obviously there's a lot of probably different parts to that process that you're going through. Talk to me about that process. How is it? How many parts are there to it? How intense is it?
Very intense. The qualitative process, it wraps up everything. So, you want to look at the board composition, and you want to look at management, you want to look at the culture, but you also want to look at things like the competitive advantage and the moat, to use a term from Buffett. The moat's one of the most important things for us to analyse, because empirically we know that the moat is what stops businesses from competition. So I'll give you an example. I guess the other point I should say is we're more focused on the direction of the moat than the width of the moat. And an example of that is Apple. If you go back to sort of 28th of June 2007, at that point Nokia had more than 50% market share. 50% market share at that stage. Apple released the iPhone on the 28th of June 2007. And if you had a look at that, if you picked up a Nokia phone in one hand and an Apple phone in the other, and you compared those two products, I think it was pretty clear to say you didn't need to see where Apple's iPhone was going to be in 5 years or 10 years' time. No, all you needed to do was look at those two products and say, I think Nokia's moat's shrinking. And at the expense of a business like Apple, whose moat was clearly widening. So we're very focused on the direction of the moat, because we want to know what that moat looks like in 5 to 10 years' time. We know, and empirically, we know that it's the direction of the moat which drives the most value over time. So that's a really big focus for us at Swell.
Yep. So if you just want to go into the word moat in a little bit more detail, and the distance between that company and the rest of the market, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's right. So moats come about from various factors. They might come out, for a business like Wesfarmers, their moat is the location of their warehouses. And if you and I wanted to set up a warehouse business tomorrow, we'd struggle to get the warehouses in the right location. So that's their moat. If you take a company like Pfizer, their moat is in the patents they have for the various different products that they sell. So every company is different. Every company has a different moat, and you need to assess each element in there to understand, I guess, what that business is going to look like in 5 to 10 years' time.
Yep. So you mentioned the sort of cash flow modelling, the traditional stuff, the moat concept. What else are you looking at?
So obviously, yeah, so the modelling, the cash flow, and on the qualitative side, yes, the moat's important, management's important, culture's important, but looking at things like, we like to know, margins obviously very important. Margins drive, I guess, earnings over time. We want to understand what that margin's going to look like, and that normally involves breaking a product down to look at the unit economics of the product and looking at what is the incremental dollar that can be earned from each additional dollar of sales. So we want to look at the additional dollar of sales and break that down and see what that does to our earnings. That's the sort of intensity we want to bring. So we want to understand, I guess, what this business is going to look like. Yes, that's one part of it. But the second part is let's look at the individual product and let's work out the unit economics so we can break it down. We want to simplify everything we do down to something that tangible that you can touch and feel.